All right, welcome to Ozhead's podcast numero siete, which is seven
already.
For you guys out there. Yeah, man.
It's a good number.
Smoke check. What are we smoking?
You know, I'm smoking this OFC Aramas here.
I've heard good things.
Yeah, you know, it's great. It's been aging apparently since December. Did you know that?
I did, because we were waiting forever and a day on materials,
on
right?
packaging.
Yeah, but that's
So as a result, it's like it's smoking awesome right now.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
The carbon ring's really thin, which, you know, I go and I do a lot of these events and people are really curious about, you know, the smoking qualities and, you know what I mean? Like
right.
people are interested in learning more.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people that, you know, when you're fermenting tobacco quite a bit, as much as humanly possible, because, you know, again, the whole point is to get the flavor that you're getting from the soil into the stalk, into the leaf. That's why they're always breaking off all those saplings so that it doesn't dilute those nutrients that go into the leaf. And then when you take that and you ferment it, if you ferment it as long as humanly possible, then it gets thin, and then you have a carbon ring that's like this. And also, this has been aging. So when it's been aging for so long, then these components marry with one another, and it's just great.
Somebody left a comment in the last podcast we did. They said the alternative title for the podcast should have been "Ferment the Hell Out of It." Did you see that? Because you were talking about fermentation so much. It was pretty funny, but
he's right.
Yeah.
She or he, whoever made
the comment. Absolutely. Well, that's part of what makes a cigar pleasurable to smoke, as opposed to being aggressive and, you know, harsh and nicotine laden and all that good stuff. But yeah, Aramas. It's almost like, I mean, even though we launched it at the TAA, which was the end of March,
right? It
still feels like it's new. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
it hasn't really gotten the critical distribution out there with
that's
everybody.
Right.
So I'm excited to get some feedback on there. So yes, drop a comment below if you smoked Aramas. If not, we'll tell you where to get it too, for sure.
What are you smoking now?
I'm smoking the Días Edmundo, one of the original 4 Vitolas that we launched in September of 2020. And ironically, like, this brand, Días, is the one brand we've launched in the last decade that was not at a trade show, because it was COVID year. So it was just kind of an organic process. But we are going to drop a new size extension to the Días brand for the first time in 3+ years.
What size?
It's going to be called Topes, which is an old Trinidad size from the Cuban Trinidad brand. It's 4 7/8 by 56, and put a little pigtail head on it. So
a bigger ring gauge.
It'll be the biggest ring gauge to date. Yeah, the Sublime was the biggest one, which was a 54. This will be a 56, but in a shorter, condensed.
Not your normal MO.
Not my normal MO, but for whatever reason. Maybe I don't know why, but it's even Pichardo Aradio said this, that in the shorter length and the bigger ring gauge, it really opens up the flavor profile for this blend, and it really, really did. I wanted to do an extension to the brand, but this worked the best. I'll never do a 6x60 if this is where this conversation is going. It just won't happen again.
You never know. Things happen. Things change. No. Like my father started painting at a later. You know, you don't never say never.
I just said it definitively.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah. The hat is Días, right? That you're wearing right now. So what is the symbol on? Oh, it's a bunch of M's. I see.
The bunch of M's. The M is a Roman numeral. M means 1,000.
Okay.
Días is 1,000 days. So that's where I got the logo from.
So 1,000 days. The story is it took 1,000 days to come up with the blend, the final blend.
Correct.
Right?
Roughly 3 years. So if you do the math, it's roughly 1,000 days. But it wasn't, and I've told the story before, it wasn't like we were constantly working on this blend, and every day it was like we'd work on it a little bit, then we'd, you know, kind of go on to something else and come back to it and then go something else. So then 3 years later, it all started with the original samples that Aradio gave us in 2017. And I was really impressed with the wrapper, and particularly. I was like, wow, this is really nice. But the blend was like uber aggressive and heavy and harsh, and I'm just like, there might be something here. And that's when we started working with those guys. And Juarez came out beforehand, but anyway.
But the wrapper on this is Connecticut, Ecuador. Is that right, or am I wrong about that?
No, it's Habano, Ecuador.
Habano, Ecuador.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know, a lot about Iradio Pichardo just because, you know, he's mainly down in Central America. doesn't come up and do these kind of public appearances, consumer events and stuff. But I went and visited him a year ago in March, and even though he speaks like I understand a little bit of Spanish. He's very fast
Yes.
Spanish with a little bit of an accent, I'm told.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed with him, and he has actually some small fields in Ecuador. He was telling me where he's growing tobaccos, and I have some photos of him with the tobaccos that he was showing me, and they were quite beautiful.
This wrapper is one that he grows too. This
Yeah.
is his wrapper. So, yeah, it's. I'm excited though. I'm excited for it. It's because really we kind of took our foot off the gas end of last year. Días is a brand overall, so now we're really kind of reinvigorating it. We just came back with another Maranitos, which is a Sumatra wrapper on the original blend. And then now we're going to drop the Topaz. That announcement will come out. God, my mind isn't working. This Wednesday. So we're shooting this the day after Father's Day. So June 21, it'll be out. So by the time this airs, the Mil Días Topaz story will come out. So, by the way, how was your Father's Day?
Oh, my Father's Day was good.
Yeah.
I was, my younger son is a serious hockey player, so he had a hockey tournament that was in Buffalo, but it was nonstop and a lot of different rinks we had to go to, and his team did well. They made it all the way to the finals, and they lost a team out of Toronto. But
oh, jeez.
But Toronto, they were all like big kids, and they were a year.
They start playing hockey like in pre-K hockey leagues in Toronto.
Yeah, and most of them were a year older, so that makes a big difference in hockey when they're that much taller. That's pretty good to
get to the finals. I mean, for a team from Nashville, right? I mean, jeez.
But I mean, from Father's Day, it obviously makes me think of my father. So and that doesn't have anything to do with the factory, but it makes me think of Jono, who we worked with. And he painted the last 10 years of his life. And, we did that Pi Synestasia cigar based on a concept so he painted around a concept called Synestasia, which that came about because we wanted to convert our warehouse that we had for CAO into a contemporary arts center that was like visual arts and performing arts. Now it's really more performing arts. But we went to visit some other places that were contemporary arts centers just so that we had some, a little bit of due diligence before just jumping into it. And one of the places we went to was in Massamoka, which was in like the Berkshires in Massachusetts. And they had, contemporary visual art and performing arts. There was this one guy there, an artist named Saul LeWitt, who was kind of like a mathematician who would also became a painter.
Right.
So imagine like an X and Y graph that would connect like, with different colors or strings, and so it became like a, math that became then
visual
a piece of art.
Yeah.
And so Jono was like, well, I am a mathematician, I am an engineer, mechanical, and I can also am an artist. So I will do a concept that is numbers and colors as well. So he found out that some people have this thing called synesthesia, where if I say a number to you, a color pops into your mind. And then a psychologist friend told me that more people have musical tones than colors, which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. So you think of the tone C or something like this, and I'm not a musician, so I mean, and then or you think of a flavor that comes to your mind. So he painted all these paintings around the number pi, 3.1415, and he's like, I will make the number 3 yellow, the number 1 red, the number 4 burnt orange, and so on and so forth. So that's why we have all those like paintings of pi all over, what used to be CAO, now Oz Arts.
I remember seeing those paintings.
Yeah. So then I was in the factory and I was working with someone when we were working on the, Ozgener family cigars blends, and he said, oh, I have this strange condition called synesthesia. And I was like, well, I know what that is, because Jono painted like literally 500 paintings around, and he said, well, mine is more around flavor. Mm-hmm. And I was like, great, can we make something that tastes like yellow? Because that was the first. He even painted over all these tobacco leaves the colors of pi, and he has them still framed in our offices at Oz Arts now. And so he was like, yes, I will have all of these samples the next morning. And I came in there, and there were all these Maduros that like were supposed to be, I'm like, what are these? He's like, this is yellow. I'm like, buddy, that doesn't look yellow. But then we did something with Connecticut, Ecuador. that tasted more of the
and that was
creamy.
last year's.
That was last year's.
Yeah, and that was really well received.
Yeah. A lot of people actually say we should make that part of our regular line. And I mean, if you like that too, then let us know, because that's how we know whether we should.
I don't even know if
do something
to
or
be
not.
honest with you, full disclosure, I don't even know if I got to smoke that.
Well, even
we took it to the show and it was like freaking sold out like instantaneously.
But even the band is a piece of his art that we kind of shrunk down and we put it on the band. So
Google
if you
that for sure,
go from left, if you go from left to right, it shows the colors in order that he painted them. So the next color he painted, but in the band he would assign like a measurement. So imagine a wall like that behind us, and the 3 would be, he would make the number 1. The color red in this case, that was like 3 inches long. Mm-hmm. He was like, therefore, 3, you need to multiply it. So that is 9 inches long. So that's why the band has that. Some colors are longer than others.
Yeah.
Is the original piece of art was based on a measurement.
Yeah.
So the next one I'll show you is coming out. We're coming out with red. So this is, I don't have the cigar, but this is the Vista. So it's actually a piece of tobacco that we then kind of we took a photo of one of his paintings, and that he painted over the actual tobacco, and we used this for the artwork, and that's his signature, because instead of signing it Jano or Cano, he just did the C. So we do have the blends, and it's tasting red, and
I have smoked that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, as we talk about, we like to ask the consumers, what do you think of when you think of the color red?
Yeah.
And most of the consumers were like, I think of something bolder, spicier.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the next limited edition.
And based on the pre-release samples that you gave me, I think that hit exactly where it should. It's spicy, it's bold. Yeah. It's like you hit it right. We're like, poof.
So we'll be doing that in the same kind of limited release, kind of format.
Same purple box.
Same purple box on the outside. Yep. The inside will have the red Vista.
12 count.
12 count boxes of them. 6 by 52.
Yeah. Was that the Vitolo last year as well?
Yes.
652?
6 by 52.
It's a good size. It's a good intermediate size, I think.
So we'll do that too. But at the show, you know what you're coming out with for Crowned Heads, but you're not ready to talk about it just as of yet.
I mean, it's just been one thing. We started off like 8 weeks ago going, wow, we don't really have a lot of new things for the show. And then here we are 8 weeks later, and we've got, we already announced the PCA exclusive, which is a cigar that is only available to purchase at PCA by people who attend PCA to help drive traffic to the show from the retail sector.
And what is that cigar?
That's going to be Le Patissier number 2. So we took the traditional Monte Cristo number 2 size. It's a torpedo 6 1/8 by 52, and we used the Patissier blend in it, which is now apparently Mike Conder's favorite cigar, which is, I don't know if that's worth anything around here, but so yeah, that's going to be 20 count boxes available only for PCA attendees. We actually changed the appearance of the box to make it stand out even more, like the rest. The PCA, right? So we did a black version of that box. So it's all black with gold. And then it says PCA exclusive 2023. So that's...
How many cigars in a box?
20.
20.
Yeah. So that's on order. That'll be ready to ship as soon as we get back, like probably late July, early August.
Can you give me a rundown again of like the wrapper, binder, filler of that cigar?
Patissier? Actually, we started Patissier as a PCA exclusive in a Lonsdale format back in 2021.
Wow.
I think, and then it became a regular production brand in 2022, and we shifted production away from our friend Aradio to Noxa, Nicaraguan American Cigars S.A. Good friend of ours that I've known for a long time, Gustavo Cura. I didn't know at the time that Gus had taken over production at Noxa, and I was on the phone with Willie Herrera like in spring of 21, and he was telling me, yeah, you should talk to Gus, and because Gus, like, he runs Prosenixa, which is the tobacco processing for Oliva, not Oliva Cigars, the Oliva family. And he also now runs Noxa. So he gets the pick of the litter from, like, all the tobaccos. He's been in the business forever. Was instrumental in helping Mike and I get started back in 2011. So we shifted production of that cigar. So it's Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, Nicaraguan binder fillers. There's something else in there too that I'm flagging on because I have no sleep. But I mean, they really took that cigar and just leveled up from where it was as a PCA exclusive in 21, and now it's fantastic.
So I want to touch on something you just said earlier. You have no sleep.
That's
And that's because your Father's Day. What did you do?
We have an annual tradition in my house. We've been doing it for, probably about 10 years.
Uh-huh.
My wife, Laura, God bless her, she rents a campsite that's at a campground. It's really about 3 or 4 miles from our house. It's not that far. We pack up everything. It's more work than anything to stay overnight, right? So, but we did it. And so AJ and I stay in this tent. We put up a tent and we stay in this tent by the lake, and it's great. I love it. I look forward to it. It's just like one of our traditions. But last night, we unfortunately had this huge storm roll through, and it wasn't like a little storm. It was like hail and wind gusts and everything.
No kidding. I think we got caught in that storm too because we had to fly back in from Buffalo. But I don't remember there being hail.
This was about 2 a.m. I know it was hail because I heard it hitting the tent. This campground, like most people come like RVs and they put up it's a big, production. We're out there in this little pup tent type thing. And so she slept right through it, God bless her. And I was up like at 12 and at 1, and then 2 of the big storm came up, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I didn't get any sleep. And then I just fall asleep about 3:30 in the morning. And then AJ woke me up at like 5:15. Dad. The sun's out, so she wants to get up and see the sun come up and everything. And I had like 0 sleep. So then I got up and I texted Laura. I said, we're coming home. Don't bother bringing breakfast. We're just going to come home. So I went home.
Oh, so Laura's not camping out.
She didn't stay there. No, she had to go home, let the dog out, and take care of all that stuff. And
you didn't just
binge
leave.
watch some Real Housewives or whatever. So she gets a little break, But but she does all the cooking and everything and all that. And so I said, we're coming home. So I went home. And I took AJ, I left AJ there, I grabbed a shower, Laura fed her breakfast, I went back to the campsite.
Oh, wow.
I took the tent down, packed everything up in the car, drove back home, unloaded everything, just in time to get AJ and take her to softball camp at JP2, and then I came to work. So that was my morning.
So you like cooked and everything over there?
Yeah. We
What do you cook?
Usually we do burgers and dogs. Last night.
They have a grill there.
They have a grill, so we have to start the fire. Which, fortunately, Laura was a Girl Scout.
You don't have to rub sticks or anything.
I'm terrible at that, dude. I'm the worst. I am not. Laura was a Girl Scout, so she knows how to like start the fire and everything. She's kindling. She's getting wood, and fire's going, and I'm like, that's great, because if it was up for me, I'd be lost. So. Then we made s'mores and all that, so it's fun.
I mean, the last 2 times that I went, I'm not like I'm a city boy. I have to admit it.
Same.
I mean, so last 2 times that we went like set up a tent.
Yeah.
One of them was like the kids wanted to do it when they were younger. I did it like right outside of our house.
Yeah.
And Arnita's like, my wife got this air mattress and I filled it up, and then they got like, it was in the fall when it started getting colder at night, and then I was freezing cold, and then somebody told me, like, well, don't sleep on the air mattress because the particles are going to get colder. It's better that you sleep on the ground than the air mattress. But I abandoned on it. I went back inside. I'm done with this.
So there was an air mattress too. We had an air mattress, but AJ gets the air mattress, and she gets the unhide blanket and the pillow and everything. And I'm like literally on a cement slab.
Oh, well, cement, that's different.
And then I'm like, Laura's like, you didn't bring a blanket. I'm like, I thought you packed it. So I had no blanket, I just had a pillow on cement, and I was like laying there like all night going, oh my God. But it's worth it, man. It's worth it. It's just the family tradition thing. And so I get a little sleep deprived for a day, and I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it was fun. I look forward to it.
All right, so now I'm sorry. Back on the other stuff. So that's the one thing that you said for PCA.
PCA exclusive.
That's one of the releases.
Then the Mil Dias Topes, and then we're going to do another podcast in a week or so, and then I'll talk about an extension to Juarez. And then after that, we talk about the big gun. So, which I don't.
A new kind of release.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So.
Yeah, and for us, it's really just, for OFC, it's just the Pi Synestasia, just because Aramas is so new in the market that still there's some retailers that need to kind of...
It's almost like it's an introduction, because we only released it at TAA for 70 stores.
Right.
So, yeah, it's still getting a lot of good comments on social and stuff, and smoking great, like you said. It's fantastic. And then
Well-
that's San Andreas, right? The wrapper on that.
Yeah, Mexican San Andreas, Ecuador Sumatra binder. And in the fillers, when we did this, we went down at the beginning of the year, which unfortunately you were here. We had to
was
contact
here.
with you via Zoom, but
Yeah.
we did this experiment where everybody tried the tobaccos on their own and rated them. So for me, one of the tobaccos on its own that I rated one of the highest was Piloto Cubano from Dominican, which I loved. I mean, whether it was the Seco or the Viso or Ligero, they all were excellent. So Ernesto had us rate them from 1 to 5, and I think that it might have been that might have been my number one for Seco on one of them, and maybe on Viso or Ligero, I can't remember which, on the other. So and then when I told Ernesto, I like the way that I think that the first quarter of a cigar needs to be super compelling. That's just me, because if it's not, then I lose interest.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, if you wanted to start with a bang, because I like to say starting Beethoven's Fifth, get people's attention, and then settled into it. Then let's add some Piloto Cubano. So there's got Piloto Cubano in the filler for Aramas, which helps it start with that kind of bang and that spice. But then also you have some Jalapa in there, Jalapa Visos, which I love, and also a half leaf of Connecticut broadleaf, which I think gives it that.
Yeah.
You already are getting that kind of chocolatey notes from the Mexican San Andreas Maduro wrapper, but to have a little bit of the Connecticut broadleaf Maduro in
That
the
really
filler
drives
too.
it home. Sure.
So I like to describe it as you're eating a 70% cacao bar with Creole spices around it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a nice kind of counterbalance with that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that Piloto Cubano, because ironically, the LV cigar that I was talking about briefly, we came down to finally, after working on it for a year, to 2 different blends, and one of them had, I believe it was a Condega Viso, and the other one had the Piloto Cubano, and I went with the one that had Piloto Cubano. It just had so much more
Yeah, it's great.
structure to
On
it.
its own, it's great.
Yeah, and so that's Ernie's always trying to push the Dominican tobacco on me, and for the longest time I was always resistant to it. But starting to play more with that Piloto Cubano, I really was like, wow, I get it now.
Well, one of the things when we were down there, I was like, this is kind of like cooking, isn't it? And Ernesto said, this is very similar to cooking. I think we talked about this before. And so it's almost like you have to know what the spices are that you have in your spice cabinet on their own, which is what I like to do with the tobaccos. And then how do you combine them? And then not only how you combine them, but how long do you let them rest, age, kind of marry with one another, which I kind of equate that to slow cooking.
Yeah.
Because when you cook something slower at a lower temperature, then you know what I mean. You give it more of a time for them to kind of the flavors to sort of I don't know how that chemistry works better with one another. So that's how I look at it
100%.
with something like this. It's been sitting in the aging room since December, so now there's going to be a little bit of that stress period where you're combining all of them together, and then you want that to settle a bit.
And they marry together, so
That's
so
right.
to speak. Yeah, well, like that on LV. I keep alluding to this LV cigar, but the wrapper that we selected for it it's been aged a minimum of 4 years before it's even rolled into the cigar. The fillers have been aged a minimum of 3 years, and then once the cigars are rolled, it's aged an additional 90 days in very controlled climate. 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 68 to 69% relative humidity. All that really, it's meticulous, but it goes a long way towards the final product.
There was a
There's no
bale that
question.
he had down there when we visited that was it was 13-year-old tobacco.
Yeah.
And I
remember
want
you
to
telling me
say
about
it
that.
might have been an Esteli Ligero. Or maybe a Viso. And he took it out and he lit it. And when he lit it, it smelled like dry aged beef. And so Brian
McGee loved that.
Brian McGee was there. Brian likes to,
Yeah.
smoke a lot of meats, and he likes beef ribs, for example. That's his preference. And so, but I mean, he got it too. So for this red blend for Pie Synestasia, we said, why don't you send us some samples of that in here? Which he did. The problem was that then it just tasted too. It was too smooth. You know what I mean? It wasn't. Didn't have that spice
Right.
in the nose, particularly when you retrohale.
It got too rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
It was
13
almost
years.
too. It was almost too well aged,
Yeah.
too kind of smooth, too much. I mean, it was still good, but it wasn't. Do you know what I mean? It didn't have that kind of
That's what I mean.
edge to it.
There's a fine line. Like you take it up to a certain point, and then it becomes almost too much, and then it's like, did this? It's almost like I've had cigars that have been aged 4 or 5 years that were just fantastic, and then I've had cigars that were aged like 10 to 15 years that are just aged out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They just lost the character. They lost the complexity. There was just like you could tell there was something there at one point, but it just got aged out. That's the best way I describe it. So you got to take it to a certain point and then know when it hits the peak, and then it's ready. Otherwise, if it's too long, then, that's why some of the times I see these guys, I got these Cubans from 30 years ago or whatever. And
Yeah, you just don't know if they're still going to be good or not. Well, people like to ask, how long can you age it, right? I mean, that's a popular
depends
question.
on the tobacco. The tobacco,
Yeah.
if you age freaking, shade-grown Connecticut wrapper or something, it's not going to be, 5 years later, it's going to taste like air. But if it's like a San Andres or a Connecticut broadleaf that starts off with a lot of structure already, and it's like this, muscular, heavy blend, that's going to have some longevity.
I actually have some experimental blends that we did, or some concept blends that we had in our circular humidor in our old building, the Escaparate.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do that on one of these things where we have this one called MX3 that has got a Maduro, back when we had CEO, when it has like the Maduro wrapper, which at the time was Connecticut broadleaf.
Yep.
We had Arapiraca binder that was Maduro. And in this one, we put some Maduro in the filler. We put broadleaf in the filler. So I have some that have been aging for 20 years. Maybe we can smoke that and see what... see
what's in there.
Yeah, see how that smokes. Because I think that, I mean, it's been a while since I smoked it, but I mean, they're ugly looking, but they taste really good and they burn really great.
Well, remember the original Lanavicercios that you brought over, I think you brought the number 4, which was the Corona. Mm-hmm. And you handed out a few of those a while ago. Those still smoked great. They're still amazing. Still got taste.
It wasn't too
they're still
flat?
good. No, it wasn't flat. I thought for sure, this thing would have aged out by now, but it was rounded for sure. But that cigar's stood the test of time because that's 25 years.
Yeah.
25
Wow,
freaking years,
crazy.
bro. 98.
So they're over 20 years old now.
Yeah, they're 20. They were made in 1998 in Tabacalera, Tambora, Costa Rica. God bless. It's crazy.
Yeah. Wow. So, yeah, are there any interesting comments that we can answer questions?
What are we running now?
to?
We're about half hour, 40 minutes? 30 minutes. When is
Do
Mike
you really
Condor
want
going
to
to be
see
on the
Condor
show?
do the show?
We can bring him in on a Zoom because he's not in Nashville. He's in parts unknown.
He'll be live from the putting green.
Yeah. You got to see when the next major open or whatever is, and we'll see, he's in, where did they just have the U.S. Open? Was it L.A.? L.A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike is on site at LACC.
There you go. Is that where they had it?
Yeah.
Jeez. I don't even know who won.
Wyndham Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Who?
Wyndham Clark.
A guy who is his
idea.
first major.
I saw, when I kind of glanced through the channels, Ricky Fowler was ahead, and I'm like,
doing well, but then he kind of
did he choke?
he made too many bogeys.
Ugh.
That was the
But yeah, we'll have Condor on the show one day. Maybe for the anniversary.
we need to have
episode.
Adam on the show.
We'll have Adam
give
before
us some
Condor.
give us some good memories of past.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I answered it, but I'll let Tim answer it on this pod. So.
Yeah, so carbon ring is, where the ash meets the wrapper and you have a black border around it is the carbon ring. So when you see the carbon ring as thin, that, to me, that's an indication that the tobaccos have been really well fermented, particularly the wrapper in this case. Sometimes if you see it more like a speed bump, that is an indicator that that wrapper could have been fermented longer, generally speaking.
Yeah. McGee's smoked meats. We did hats that said McGee's smoked meats. And it was a meet and greet where you would come to the in-store and he would make, he would cook or do a meat, like MEAT, and greet. So that was part of it. You'd come in, buy a box, he'd make you a steak, that kind of a thing. So that's his McGee's smoked meats.
So ironically, I was in Shreveport with him a few days ago, and we visited MK Smoke Shop, and he did an event over there. I think that's right. And he did an event over there that was for somebody's the previous owner. I think it was his birthday, or it was a big occasion. And Brian was in the back of the store. It was very, very hot that day. He was in the sun in the back of the store outside, cooking these steaks. He had sous vide the steaks in advance.
Yeah.
And then he was just searing them.
Right.
And he brought out the steaks. They were eating them. They were about to do a toast to this gentleman that they were honoring. And then this gentleman's sister ended up choking on one of the pieces of meat.
Oh, God.
To the degree that they were lucky that they had 3 doctors in the room, and they were about to puncture her trachea.
What?
Oh, yeah. They called the ambulance, everything.
This all happened like 2 days ago?
No,
or?
no. This was an event that happened years ago, a couple years ago.
Okay.
But they were recounting it to me a couple days ago when he was doing one of these meets and greets. And then
we should rename it the choke and smoke.
Yeah, no, well, the retailer
McGee's choke and smoke.
The retailer was clever. He's like, you could have come out with a slogan that said, like meats to die for.
Oh my God,
meats so
I
good.
never heard that story.
And so then they call the ambulance. The ambulance is there. They get it. They get it out, the meat out of her throat. And they never got a chance to celebrate the guy because the event was in essence like ruined because this woman had to be like taken to the hospital. It's his sister.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that you never heard that story?
Yeah, no. Somehow that one slipped through the cracks.
Yeah,
we didn't talk about that one on the Zoom call.
Oh no, yeah. He was like, "Oh, my event went great."
Yeah,
somebody almost died.
Almost killed somebody. I'll have to do a new half.
And he said he was so hot that he had this one area because they had like some kegs of beer, and he went where the kegs of beer were, and he just laid in there
McGee's
to cool
smoke
down.
And choke.
He still has that hat on, McGee's Smoked Meats.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, it's a pretty weathered hat now.
Yeah, so is Brian.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
He's not going to watch this. So
What was another comment we got? We get another interesting comment?
That's a good question. I mean, I still go back to, I think the timing would be right for like a Bosphorus / Arma sampler. But
or a Crowned Heads. Crowned Heads had samplers too.
We did it. We've done a few of them over the years. We did the 4-kick sampler was one of each Vitola, and then I think we did something called a 6-shooter where we had 2 Headley Grange, 2 4-kicks, and 2 J.D. Howard way back in like 2013. But we haven't done a lot on the sampler route.
I would love to do a sampler. I mean, the question is really, what sizes do you put in there? You put existing sizes. Do you do all existing sizes, but one that's like not, I don't know.
There's different ways to go about it because I'm seeing like most samplers now instead of a wooden box, they're using the fresh pack, right? Which is a great idea. Or they're doing like a cardboard box with a window or whatever. And some brands will do like Toros. Like regardless of what sizes are in the brand, they'll just do like, here's 2 6x52s, 2 6x52s, and 2 6x, that kind of thing. It's just a different 100 different ways to skin the cat on that one. But fresh packs are nice. I like fresh packs.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it might be good for people to comment if they like fresh packs better for samplers or in the box format, really.
Yeah, that would be good. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you think.
Any other interesting ones?
Don't worry. I won't. And I did say never. We did do a 6x60. We did it. It was a terrible exercise in futility.
Wrong blendo.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You're better at that than me. I'll let you do the 660s.
I like 6x60s.
There's a 660 in
Yeah,
Aramis.
I like 6x60s. You get a lot of flavor. You get a lot of volume of smoke in your mouth.
It's just
not bad.
It's
like
a personal
normal
thing for
now.
me. Like I won't smoke a 6x60, so it's hard for me to like.
Ernesto's a big fan of 6x60.
Yeah, no, he is, and they do plenty, but I don't personally smoke that size because it just feels like a stogie to me. So if I don't smoke it, I'm like, I can't really get behind it to push it. It's like if somebody said, hey, why don't you do a Crowned Heads bourbon? It might sound like a great idea, but I don't drink, so why would I do Crowned Heads bourbon? That's my rationale for not doing a 660.
Well, I mean, the way I look at it is that if it's in demand and people are curious for it and they like it, and we can do it well and blend, then why not? You know, give folks what they want. Any other interesting questions? So, as far as when Aramas got shipped out and to who received it, is that we had there's a gathering called the TAA, Tobacconist Association of America, that is maybe, 170 retailers.
Not 170, just 70.
So those 70 retailers that came to that show, we kind of did a soft launch for it there. And those folks first ordered it, and then more people, as the salesmen kind of approached them, who already carry Crowned Heads and Ozgener family cigars, were also able to. They were offered samples of Aramas and the opportunity to order them. But there'll be a wider range of retailers that will order them, I assume,
In Vegas.
at our PCA show that's coming up at the beginning of July, right after July the 4th.
PCA is it's PCA International Trade Show and Convention. When Tim and I first started off, it used to be called the RTDA, Retail Tobacco Dealers of America. Then it became the IPCPR,
That's right.
And then it became the PCA. So it's always been this huge annual trade show that is international, and people come from all over the world. And you've got like a 3.5 day window, usually to introduce new products, promote existing products. People come for the deals. There's some deals there, or PCA exclusive cigars, what have you. But it's like our Super Bowl, basically.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of trade shows. That's what the PCA is. And I remember in 1996, it was the RTDA. I had just started working for Jono and CAO in like April. And like 2 months later, we did the RTDA. And I was just thrown into like the deep end of the pool.
ringer, yeah.
Yeah, man. That was an experience. That was my first one. And I've done every one except for the COVID year, which they didn't have one, and then the year my son was born in 2000. Other than that, I've done every trade.
Yeah, it's tended to be in places that people can smoke too. So
Yeah.
it's been in Vegas for a long time now, just because they allow smoking over there.
Right.
They have smoking areas. It's
It used
pretty
to be they
friendly.
would vary the cities, though. Because
Yeah.
the 1 year was in Cincinnati. That was my first year.
Right, Nashville, we did it too.
Did it in Nashville twice.
Yeah,
There was Tampa.
we did Indianapolis one year, I think. Yeah, I think we
remember
did
Indy.
actually.
There was
long
Houston.
time ago.
Houston, we did Houston.
Yeah, that's right.
Trying to think of anything else on
New Orleans, of course.
Orlando, New Orleans. But
New
as
Orleans
over
is
time,
pretty cigar friendly.
yeah. In fact, I think the rumor
We're
is
going
that
back to New
in
Orleans
25.
Yeah,
Which I love New Orleans. New Orleans is, I just like that city. I
but
like
it's
it.
in essence kind of like it's a big. It's more of the traditional trade show that through the years have kind of become more specific about the name of the show, so that we're doing a better job as an industry, kind of differentiating premium cigars from other tobacco products.
Correct.
So thus the name PCA, Premium Cigar Association, is just a more
very focused.
It's a simpler acronym as opposed to IPCPR.
I don't remember what IPCPR
International
stood
Premium Cigar.
for. I think it was international. There was pipe in there somewhere.
International Pipe Cigar Retail Association.
Something like that. That'd be IPCPA
I think-
or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember. I remember RTDA. It was
Retailers.
Retail Tobacco Dealers of America. That's how I came up, was RTDA. RTDA.
Yeah,
is always-
RTDA, IPCPR, and now PCA.
We've come a long way, though, because I remember my
PCA is
first
good.
RTDA, Jono had us rent 2 U-Haul trucks, and we loaded up the booth ourselves, drove them up ourselves
To where?
to Cincinnati.
Ah,
It was
yeah.
Cincinnati. And the booth that he had, because at that time, CAO was primarily a humidor company.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So Jono had the idea of, since these humidors are made by hand and they're wood, let's make the trade show booth 100% solid wood. So this booth was like a ton, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So to save money on drayage, he had us drive it up, unload it, and do all that
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Man, that was something else. I remember
Yeah.
driving with Philip Thompson in a U-Haul truck to
Wow.
to Cincinnati.
Fun times.
Oh, yeah. That was a good time. Adam remembers it, too.
Trial by fire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was cool, man, because it was like, immediately, like, I saw, that's Carlito Fuente, that's Ernesto Perez Carrillo, that's, that's Padron, and that's,
Yeah.
and actually Cigar Aficionado had Marvin Shankin had JFK's humidor on display with like armed guards standing around it. It was just like this crazy time. It was fun. It was fun. So that's it.
Good.
All right, let's call it.
All right.
Let's call it a wrap. And so next time we get on, we'll talk about some more new stuff we've got for PCA and all that good stuff. So
Cool.
until the next one, keep smoking
Ciao.
Crown Heads, keep smoking OFC, and we'll see you on the next Ops Heads. Peace.
See it.